Hey solos, so you want to go to Disneyland all by yourself and you were looking for a really handy guide that can help you navigate the OG Magic Kingdom. Well, do I have a conversation for you? Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World and Disneyland. So, I have another great conversation for you about the authors of the unofficial fan guide, I Love Disneyland. 100 plus surprising facts, fun quizzes, fan favorite trivia, and more about Disneyland. Written by Ry Castles and Skyla Castles, also known as Sometimes Castles, on all of the different social media. Now, if you caught my conversation with the Dapper Danielle Kelly, a month ago or so, not the last conversation, but the conversation about a month ago or so, you will know that I talked to her about I Love Disney's Magic Kingdom. And that was also an unofficial guide that was published by Adams Media. And this book is all about Disneyland. If you listen to that conversation that I had with Danielle about I Love Disney's Magic Kingdom, you will remember that I loved that book because of the way that it was so handy. You could put it in your purse, you could put it in your little lounge fly, and you could navigate Magic Kingdom at Disney World, reading that book and preparing for your trip on the plane beforehand. And it had so many interesting trivia, hints, and tips and things like that. But also, if you are a newbie, it would tell you where to eat and things like that. I tell you this because that conversation was great, but this conversation is also great, and it's specifically about Disneyland. Now, I haven't been to Disneyland solo ever, and I haven't been to Disneyland, in over a decade. And of course, I want to go and visit, but this guide, I am not kidding you, made it just seem like so much more doable solo because there were so many other things that I could look for and do. They were really able to highlight so many different elements of the park where I could look and see trivia and I could go and try some food. And as soon as I finished reading it, I was like, oh my God, when is my Disneyland trip? And talking to Sometimes Castles, talking to Ry and Sarah, they were just so great. They were so useful and fun and excited. And I feel like we're going to talk very soon again. So make sure that you follow them on all their social media. Their social media are below. My social media is below. And pick up a copy of the book. Again, it's by Adams Media, and links to my affiliate links, if you're interested, are also below. Before we get into the conversation, I just will remind you that I am actually at Disney World this week. I am editing this earlier so that the episode will be ready to go and posted and all that, fingers crossed, while I am away. If you wanted to follow my adventures at Disney World this week, you can go on Patreon. There's stuff for free members as well as paid members. And I just find that it's easier to kind of collect all those pictures and videos and things like that and put it there rather than on Instagram, which isn't always easy to navigate, and not everyone has Instagram either. I will be posting an episode about my trip, the trip that I'm currently on, according to your ears, but not my voice. It's okay. Well, I'll figure it out. But I'm not quite sure when that will be. It'll just depend on how busy things are when I get back. But I love coming home and sharing so much with you. So make sure you go to Patreon and see the little recap videos I do every night. But also know that a new episode will be coming that will talk about my trip. All right, let's get into it. Hello, Ry and Skyla. I'm so excited for this conversation. Not only do we get to talk about another book, but we get to talk about Disneyland. I can't wait. Before we begin, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ry, and I'm half of Sometimes Castles. I've been going to Disneyland my entire life. Since I was a small child, my parents lived close to the park. We had annual passes, so I grew up with Disneyland. I know Disneyland pretty well.
I'm Skyla. I'm the other half of Sometimes Castles. And I've been going to Disneyland since 2015. So, in the grand scope of things, relatively new. But hey, that's 1/7 of the amount of time Disneyland's been around. So, that's not so bad.
No, that's not so bad. And a lot of people really started going more or thinking about going more around COVID. So 2015, and also Sometimes Castles has been around since 2019 before COVID, that you were ahead of the curve.
Yeah, we lived in San Diego when I first started going to Disneyland. So we did have an annual pass, but driving up from San, it's 90 miles. Okay, it was a bit of a hike, but When we moved up to Orange County in 2019, that's when we decided to start Sometimes Castles. I just wanted something to do. And the COVID kind of changed that. We definitely thought our journey was over. And then we came back.
It's so interesting about Disneyland because there is that more sense of local than there is at the Disney World Resort property. And it's such an interesting element of like fandom. And I feel like it's like a bit of a warm blanket all over you when you're local and you're like Disneyland is what you can do on the weekend or for an hour in the evening very easily.
Like more so than fandom, like community. Like I use the word
Mm,
community a lot because like and Sky will make references like it feels a lot like the 90s when people just go to the mall and see the same people at the mall. Like
yeah.
it is a locals park. When we go to Disneyland, we often see the same people there because of this community we're a part of. Like often they're content creators, but not just content creators. Like Disneyland regulars are part of this community. People that aren't even engaged in content, but we see on a regular basis, we share information with, and it is a warm blanket, but it's a different kind of family.
Yeah, that's so great. Like it's been really awesome in hosting this podcast because I've gotten to know people and then we try to meet up in Walt Disney World, but it's like,
So
well,
hard.
what is your plane schedule like, right? Because so many people are flying in. And so, yeah, Disneyland feels so different in that way. But I know it's something that people who are used to Disney World are reticent about going to Disneyland because it's like same but different. And that's why I'm excited that we're talking about the book, which seems like a really good segue. So you both wrote an unofficial fan guide. I love Disneyland. You'll notice I do
Ooh.
my readings. And I loved this so much because first, it made me want to book a trip to Disneyland right away. But it seems like such a good balance of helping people navigate the parks that haven't been in a really long time, but then also these like interesting things to fill in the blanks if you have been a lot of times and you're like, oh, that is an interesting piece of trivia I didn't notice to look for or do or anything like that.
Yeah, we really wanted to try to encapsulate all of that. Disneyland is so much, right? Disneyland is so much history and so much legend and lore,
Mm.
but also everything that you're going through right now when you go to the park. It's different than it was before COVID. And we know that people do have a hard time sometimes navigating the park, understanding reservations, understanding the mobile app. What do I even do when I get here? And so trying to merge those two things was a big priority for us.
Make it easy and readable too. Like we know that like people like we want people to quickly get information, so we very intentionally wrote it in a way that was easy for people to read, like regardless of what their age is, and be able to quickly take away something about whatever they're interested in, regardless of where they start in the book.
Yeah, I think that it's such a great balance too of these like deep dives and then also recommendations. So this podcast is focused on solo travel, mainly to Disney World. But then for people who want to go to Disneyland, I like this is such a great book to like pop in your carry-on and like read ahead of time, but also pop in your carry-on, browse like on the plane to like look for specific things. What was your process in writing it? Because I'm sure that because you're so deep in the legend and you're so deep in the lore that it was like, okay, what, how, what, yeah.
I mean,
you're
we
you're already
fig-
making faces, so I like feel like
Uh-huh.
it.
this is one that we had to try to figure out together. So like we're not formally writers. Like we're people who just love Disneyland, love sharing information, and we've learned content along the way. So when we were approached by the editor, we didn't have a good process. We built one while making the book. So originally we were like, hey, we'll just each write half, and we've learned that that didn't really work for us.
Yeah.
It was easier for me to collect information, start writing things, but it was harder for me to polish. And for Skyla, it was harder for her to start. Uh, she got just overwhelmed with like, hey, what's Tomorrowland going to be? And just overwhelmed with ideas. So for Skyla, it was harder to start, but easier to polish. So what we ended up doing is like, I would do just word vomit and just ideas and thoughts and things, and she would make it cohesive. So it's a process we learned together over the course of the book, but I think the book is better because of that.
The Tomorrowland chapter was stunning, stunning when I started it. It was all by itself, 200 pages, not that long, but I was like in it I'm deep into Tomorrowland. What was open when it opened? What was fake opened, right? Because there were things that were open on opening day, but they didn't work. They just staged it for the cameras. So I'm doing all of these like really deep dives, and Ry goes, "Hey, so we need to talk about stuff that's like there right now." Like in the park. So, oh yeah, we do need to do that. And I just handed Tomorrowland back to him, and he helped me prune that one. I'd say that's the worst land that I got too involved in. But also, I love Tomorrowland. It's got a little soft spot in my heart.
I think that it really is a testament to Disney that it's so difficult to figure out where to begin when you're doing these type of travel guides, because there was one time where you had said something like, if you look here and here, let me see if I can find it really quickly. But it was like, this is an example of a way that the Imagineers built in the whole history of things that even weren't there, right? And so, like, Disney itself is a place that is like one of those like Russian nesting dolls of history, but it never ends. So it's not surprising that it's like, where do we begin? In the beginning, in the creation story, there was tomorrow.
And that goes so far back itself too, right? That goes so far back to Walt and Roy starting the Disney company and how that even happened. And all of this is a story unto itself. So we really like I Love Disneyland and what it became for like a 101 guide in a way, but there is so much more to uncover. So we really hope this gives people the curiosity to go and learn more about Disneyland.
I would say that it's a little bit more than a 101 guide. I would say it's like like a entry level graduate course, maybe. I don't know. Just because there were so many things that I just felt were like such smart ways to like bring in a little bit of history. And if you aren't interested in that, you could like wouldn't even notice it. You're like, oh, I can get chicken nuggets there. That's great. But like, here's that extra little bit.
I appreciate that. I think I also think the way that we approach the park after having gone a billion times is very different. So for me, this is a 101. This is easy, but as someone else's perspective, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and I say that to suggest that the accessibility is there for the audience that listens to this podcast, which are solo travels, right? Solo travelers. They're adults. They're there for the vibes. They're usually there for a little bit of like history. They're there to get stuff that maybe when you're there with a big family, you can't really notice. And so that's why I think I want to highlight that part of it, because I think it's such a useful companion if you're planning on going there solo.
And we love a solo day away from each other also. It's your happy place. Sometimes you just need to go and decompress there. And maybe decompressing at Disneyland is not intuitive for some people because it feels overwhelming. But honestly, going and grabbing a drink and people watching is top tier Disney.
Well, and I think like a lot of it's like Magic Key and annual passes. I think that's like the difference, because like Skyla originally, like not really knowing Disney Park, like we bought a ticket, we went, and she's like, this is overwhelming, this is cool, but like, how do we have this opportunity again? And it's like, well, you can take the value of your ticket today and put it towards an annual pass, and we can do this again. And she's like, what? So you mean it's like losing money if we don't buy one today? And I was like, well, I mean, you think you want to come back?
And you're like, and you can order this set of steak knives
for only $19.99.
Yeah, that's right.
But to your point earlier about Disneyland being a locals park, and again, not saying that someone can't enjoy Disneyland like on a solo day, like without really knowing the park. But like so much of Disneyland, like having the Magic Key, having the annual pass, being able to go and not feeling pressurized to do as much as you can in a day. Like even people are doing solo trips. Like the thing that we tell people is try not to pack something into every minute of the day, because you're going to be frustrated if something changes and you miss something and you don't leave room for magic in your day. So you miss some of the stuff around Disneyland that you didn't know you didn't know.
That's the thing that we do on this podcast. We do solo stories where we interview people about, I don't know why I say we, it's me. They interview people about their experience going solo. And that comes up all the time. Like I can just be in the vibes of Disney. And for non-locals, I mean, I guess for locals too, but I'm thinking more because the audience of the podcast is usually Disney World. Like things like when you said, on Tom Sawyer's Island, there's the Dead Man's Grotto, like those types of things to look for, and then to look forward to seeing and like appreciating those moments. Because like you said, it's so easy to just, for some people to think like ride.
Yeah.
But when you're there solo,
to be able to take that all in, I think is really great.
Yeah, and I think different people have different things in season of their lives. So like when I was in college and had an annual pass, me and my friends, it was ride, 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 maybe a drink, ride, 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 ride. Like we didn't do shows. We didn't do like the ambience. Like for me, for whatever reason, in my 20s, my goal was like I felt like my Disney day was better if I got on more rides.
Right.
And now with me and Skyla, a lot of it is like the memories and time with people. So like
Mm-hmm.
being able to take friends and be like, I know a spot we can go see World of Color without waiting. And they're like, what do you mean we can see World of Color without a virtual queue? It's like, come with me. I know the yellow entrance and you come at this minute and then they do this and then you like get an awesome view for a show. So I love sharing Disney magic with people that like, because me and Skylar go often, like we know little, I wouldn't say tricks necessarily, but the flow of the park where
Yeah.
we can go get a spot for a parade without waiting, where we can go get a view for fireworks without spending a lot of time with that and bringing people along for that, making magic for people that didn't know, again, what they don't know. It's been really special.
And you get that from this book too, right? Like they can't go with you unless, they know you. But
Well,
with the book, it is like going with you because there are certain things that get pointed out that really just are like, oh, obviously the person that wrote that like cares about that thing, right?
100%. And like, honestly, a lot of the book comes from this time we spent in this community. Like, every fact in there isn't just something that was in our head. We've had conversations with other Disneyland regulars. We've had conversations, cast members have been a big part of our community. So,
Mm,
because of what we do with content through Sometimes Castles, where we explain what's going on at the park, cast members come to us and say, thank you for the videos you do. I did like Disneyland internally doesn't share information with us really great. So we are learning about things about the park from you so we can explain things better to guests. So this community is such a like an interesting intertangled one where now cast members give us information. We post information that other cast members get. So much about what's in the book is stuff from conversations with Disney superfans, cast members, and Imagineers, and trying to collect that in a way that's, like you said, digestible and easy for people to like go through and learn something.
When I was talking to Danielle Kelly about I
Mhm.
Love Magic Kingdom, which was for Disney World, she was saying like how frustrating it is that there are so many elements of Disney history and storytelling that kind of gets lost, and that it was kind of the same process for her, right? Like checking on a rumor and then doing back
Yep.
history, and so I wonder if you two have any comments about that in relationship to Disney World, Disneyland, because especially because of the 70th anniversary right now, and because it seems like there isn't the same type of like living archive that
Well,
one would expect.
so I'm going to
Exactly.
add two things there, and I
Yeah.
know Skyla wants to get it here too. But in any case, so original Imagineers for Disneyland didn't really document or didn't document well. So much is the oral history, and Walt Disney was, I mean, the phrase we would use is kind of a troll, where
A
he would
troll?
embellish troll like an internet thing, like an internet troll. Like
Oh,
he's kind of a troll.
he
He
would
embellished
troll.
stories.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
So
I
so
was
so
like, that's not really the vibe I get from him, but
so
I understand the
so
embellishment.
here
Yeah.
embellishment. Here's a few
Right.
examples, like the petrified tree that we have by Golden Horseshoe, the
Uh-huh.
oldest living thing at a Disney park.
That's
Uh,
in the
the,
book.
the story is the original story that's literally on the plaque is, hey, he bought this as a gift for his wife. It was too big for the house, so she donated to Disneyland. And that's not true at all. Like after like they passed away, the kids were like, no, 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 this was always planned for Disneyland. He just wanted a tall tale to be able to like make it this like meme about something. Or
Mm.
Lafitte's anchor from the pirate, like Jean Lafitte, that's in front of Haunted Mansion. He's like, it's the real anchor from the real ship in the War of 1812 or whatever. And it's not. But like he got these things, he told these stories, and because things weren't documented, a lot of people believed these things were true for a period of time until like Walt's kids like came and like clarified that no, he was just trolling people, and he like thought it was fun to tell these stories because like he embellished stuff because he wanted to have a fun time with people.
Right.
But yeah, so much of Disney history, like original Disney history Imagineers, so much isn't documented. Some things are embellished. So that's interesting. And I've kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with this one. So
Well,
Skyla,
no,
take
it's
it away.
okay. I think Skyla had something to say. I don't know, Skyla, you want to pop in about that kind of like loss of history and lore, but also
Yeah.
like the embellishment of lore.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was. That not you're right. There's not as much of a living history. Disneyland was done in such a scattershot sort of way, that stuff just doesn't exist in the same way that it does. They realized the importance of it when they were building Walt Disney World, and that they're just entirely different things. So it's like, okay, so now I've seen something. Someone has claimed something is true on the internet, and then you're doing a lot of archaeology to go through and find out if those things are real or not real. And then speaking to the 70th anniversary, they put a lot of old Disney concept art, how they thought the layout was going to be when they thought the park was going to be somewhere else, the maps and all of this. They put all of that into the show building where Lincoln is for us.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that stuff has never seen the light of day, like not to a regular guest. So you can still go through and learn things about Disneyland literally right now with all that stuff that's up, which is really cool. I think we learned things. Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly, because Samantha, you're asking me for the 70th, because we were working on this book, and then they opened that archive in like the opera house in front of like Lincoln and where the new Walt animatronic is for us. So like as we're writing the book, we can go in there, and these things that people have just told us about for the first time ever, those records are actually physically in person. So me and Skyla, that first day, like we were the opera house, like we were supposed to go see animatronic Walt. We spent like an hour just in the opera house, like looking at the historic stuff out there and
True
taking
Life
pictures.
Adventureland. Like we didn't have anything for True Life Adventureland, and there it was right there in front of my face. So this is very exciting.
Meanwhile, in Epcot, people are like lining up for the Figment popcorn buckets, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, I'm lining up
I'm
for like
busy.
the original archive. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I would be too. That's exciting. Actually, that was a really interesting part right at the beginning of reading, because there are so many things like in Main Street, for example, that we, even though I'm Canadian, so you know, it's abroad, we have a Walt Disney World, but that are different at Disneyland, and that if you're used to just walking by these things at Disney World and Magic Kingdom, to like take like that the Lincoln animatronic is there, like to take more of a view there. Because when I was reading about the gallery and the like the theater and all that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I would have just walked by that thinking, oh, it's pretty much like samesies, guest relations, etc.
No, it is. Yeah, stepping into Magic Kingdom for the first time was very yes, this is the same but different. And do they have all the same stuff that we did? So we went around. So like our Lincoln is where your Lady and the Tramp restaurant is. I think something like that. So going through and seeing how different those things were, and how yeah, it just felt like Disneyland, but then they used pin particles on them, and then it became bigger. That's what it felt like to me. It was a little, I mean, it was a lot. It was
Did
a lot
you just
there.
say pin particles?
Pin particles?
It's like a Marvel thing. Yeah.
Marvel thing?
That's a what?
Marvel,
thing.
like Marvel superhero stuff, Pym particles. So like we have an Avengers
Oh,
campus.
Pim.
Pym.
I thought you
yeah.
said pin, and so I was like actually just like thinking of anyway. I was just thinking I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is the technical term. Pin particles. Obviously, I'm not interested in Marvel, so I didn't get that either, but got it. No problem. Someone's listening.
Nerd stuff. Somebody's gonna understand my
Totally.
reference out there. I'm sure they will.
So was there a land in Disneyland when you were writing the book that you developed a greater appreciation of?
I mean, I think everything we developed a better appreciation for, but I'll let Skyla go first on this one because she got deeper than I did.
I think for me, this is going to be sort of the left side of the park, Bayou, what's now Bayou Country, what used to be the Indian Village, that sort of stuff, because I feel like you can sort of just walk by Bayou Country and go cool beans like Tiana's and Winnie the Pooh, and then just live your life. But the history of the canoes, the history of Tom Sawyer Island, how all of that space used to be used, how Walt Disney had advisors from over 16 different Native American indigenous groups telling him how to make this a more authentic experience, which is such a huge deal for the 50s. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I developed a greater appreciation for that sort of left side of the park.
Yeah, cool.
For me, it's like weird history stuff, like not so a land, but like different periods of time and like just the impact of stuff. Like 1955 and Autopia. And for me, Autopia is kind of like the silly ride that like kids ride cars. But realizing like as we dug into the history, in 1955, there weren't really freeways. So the purpose of
Mm.
Autopia is, hey, look at the tomorrow, look at the future. Walt Disney's like, in the future, we're all going to be on highways driving around. And everyone's like, that's crazy, Walt. People aren't going to drive from city to city on a highway. But Autopia was trying to like be that vision of the future. And Walt had his finger on the pulse and truly knew where things were going. But for us, like, I've always been alive when freeways were like how my family got us from point A to point B. So it's weird to think about that. Or we didn't really get deep into this in the book, but the 1964 World's Fair and how much
Yeah.
that impacted, but Disney impacted the World's Fair and World's Fair impacted Disney. So I got so deep into like 1964 World's Fair, like I knew it existed and I knew it mattered, but I got such a bigger appreciation for that when doing research for I Love Disneyland.
Yeah, one of the things I learned from the like History of the Fast Pass documentary was
Yeah.
that the switchback line was invented for the World's Fair for like around Disney, right? Like so it is so interesting that integration of history. It's cool to hear you, Ry, say how like taken you were by that kind of integration.
I mean, just also all kinds of things. Like the line system is one thing, but like the ride technology for Small World being like the highest capacity of ride, more so than anything at Disney Park, and that influenced things like Pirates of the Caribbean with the ride vehicle that again has a capacity that more people get to ride that attraction, and comparing that to something like Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
The animatronic technology. So Abraham Lincoln, that first audio animatronic that they had at World's Fair that like walked in, like had that conversation, and how that also influenced animatronic technology for things like Pirates of the Caribbean. It all came from the 1964 World's Fair. And then also like how clever Walt and Roy were, where these companies wanted these things developed. So they paid to develop this technology. And then Walt Disney's like, well, when you're done at the World's Fair, we can keep it. Yeah. So they developed things like the Lincoln animatronic and the Small World ride. They live at the World's Fair for a couple of years, and then Disney essentially gets an attraction for free.
Also find it interesting the like integration of like corporate sponsorships,
Yes.
which I feel like we all think is kind of a modern concept. And so it was cool in the book too, but also related to the World Fair, how like that history can kind of be flagged. Like there's nothing more American than a corporate partnership.
Tomorrowland was just drowning in corporate. It was corporate sponsorship. That is what Tomorrowland was. So yeah, I do think that it's really funny if like, you know, in California Adventure right now as an example, I think it's still one of the benches has like Enterprise rent-a-car ad on it.
And Cars Land. And Cars
And
Land.
Cars Land. Cars Land, of course. And it's just one bench, but people get really upset about it. And I'm like, man, if you had only seen Tomorrowland, which was only corporate sponsorships. And yeah, it's always
But it's how
funny.
Disney was able to afford to
Yeah.
do these things
Yeah.
every step along the way. Like Splash Mountain was only able to be achieved because they had a partnership with McDonald's.
Right.
And McDonald's subsidized Splash Mountain development. And then
Those
for
commercials
a
are
period
wild.
of like 10 years, McDonald's was available inside the parks. That's like that wagon that we had for French fries was a 10-year agreement after building Splash. And then when they were done with that, because like Disney tries to cycle these sponsorships, now that thing is gone.
In Magic Kingdom and Disney World, that cart, the former McDonald's fry
Yep.
cart, now sells beignets, but like they're not the beignets you can get at the resort, which are delicious, and I think more in line with like the actual Tiana's Palace beignets that you can get at Disneyland, which I'm so jealous of.
I can't believe you can't get those.
Yeah, they're just like frozen ones that they put
Oh.
icing sugar on, but then at one of the resorts, Port Orleans French Quarter,
Oh yeah, that's right.
you can get whole big fluffy beignets that I thought were better than in New Orleans. So yeah,
That's fair. I
But-
love our beignets. They're delicious.
I think that's the interesting thing comparing Disneyland to Disney
Yeah.
World is like the different qualities of different food items. For us, like the surprise was churros because churro is such a big deal at Disneyland and seasonal churros and quality. And then Disney World, it's like impossible to find a churro and they're just not.
I didn't
Good.
even have one.
no,
Didn't have
don't
one.
have one.
That's
Don't
what I
have
was
one.
told.
No.
I didn't even see a cart, so you know it's fine.
Yeah, no, Disneyland, no one can beat that food. I went to Disneyland as an adult about 15 years ago, and my former partner and I, we went and we stopped at just like a random quick service restaurant, and we were like, is this the best Mexican food we've ever had? Like, what is happening? Because we were in San Diego and we just drove up kind of haphazardly, no research, and we were like, what is happening? We've been chasing like taco trucks in San Diego for 2 days, and like this is great. So yeah, no, you can't beat the food in Disneyland.
But
And they have to
back to
keep
what you're
it
going
fresh.
about,
Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
what you're doing earlier, like it's a local spark. So it has to be good and it has to be different because like if it's not good and it's not something that like because people are seeing the same thing that they're seeing, like why would they eat at Disneyland? So our food always kind of rotates. And then like the quality of fast service, like Disney World has a lot of really great sit down restaurants, a lot of
Mhm.
great experiences doing that. But I think the fast service at Disney World doesn't feel comparable to the fast service we have at Disneyland.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true. One of the things I was surprised about, like in reading your book, is I was like, "Ooh, interesting, interesting. Ooh, fact, duh, duh, duh." And then I got to Galaxy's Edge. Now, full disclosure, I do not care about Star Wars. I'm not anti Star Wars. I just don't care. And so I've never really spent any time in Galaxy's Edge in Hollywood Studios in Florida either. But in just like watching other people's videos, what I was surprised about is like I wasn't surprised about anything in that chapter. Like it seemed like that there it was very similar in between the two
Yeah.
locations. And so I want to know your thoughts on that and how you felt about that in comparison to like learning about all this interesting kind of lore about these unique places that, grew and developed at Disneyland. And then maybe this like newer area of the park might feel more corporate and less unique. I don't know. Is that I feel like I might be like stepping on dangerous territory, but I I'm not quite sure. I was just really surprised about that.
Yeah, they're really the same. Actually, it felt very bizarro when we went to Hollywood Studios because some of the stuff is mirrored. So I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I was like, what, why? This is the same, but also different. It's so weird. And the paint is just like slightly different. So your eyeballs and your brain are used to one thing and you see this other one. What's going on? But
you can also actually go to the Twilight Zone when you're at Hollywood Studios.
You can.
So,
we don't even have that option.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's really easy to overlook a lot of the interesting stuff that's in Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
I think there's a lot more detail and storytelling than really gets surfaced on a regular day. And it can be really easy to just skip those things and just look at it like it's kind of like brown and concretey and like, it's fine, but I do think that Galaxy's Edge has a lot of potential. I do enjoy it for the most part. But then sometimes that potential feels a little I wouldn't say wasted, that's not quite the right word, but all the cast members when it opened, I don't know if they're even still doing this, were required to come up with a backstory for their character in this land, which is super interesting. And no guests really talk to them about it and don't really engage in sort of that role play that exists in Galaxy's Edge. I think that's the part that's a little wasted. We could be better about engaging with cast members like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to suggest that it's not an interesting place. I mean, it
It
isn't for me, but that's just me. It just feels like, oh, okay, well, like the uniquenesses that grew up around Disneyland versus Disney World just doesn't seem to have any uniquenesses in comparison. If you were like, if you were going to Disneyland and you were like, ooh, Fantasyland, you're going to get a whole bunch of uniquenesses, right? Whereas if you're like, ooh, Galaxy's Edge and Disneyland, it's not going to get that same.
Oh yeah, no, they're copy paste. Yeah, they're copy paste.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that was intentional, though. I think like they wanted to make sure that like regardless if you went to Disneyland or Disney World, you had a similar Galaxy's Edge experience, and not just that. And they've relaxed this, but Galaxy's Edge is a unique Star Wars story that is canon in Star Wars universe. So the reason they had to be the same, at least the way it was explained to us, is because it's actually lore for the Star Wars story. They have to be the same. They can't really deviate from that story that was written for the Star Wars universe. Like the story of Galaxy's Edge takes place days before the events of Star Wars Episode 9: Rise of Skywalker. And
so
the
very
backstories of some
narrow
of these
window,
characters is like, so like it's supposed to be samesies, which it's a weird decision. I'm not the decision I would make, but it was an intentional decision that they are the same.
Right.
I think what's sad for me is that I actually never got to see what was back there before Galaxy's Edge in our park. So I never got to see
Big Thunder Ranch and the happiest turkeys on earth.
I never saw it.
Right.
So yeah, that's sad.
Speaking of like uniquenesses between the different places, I do love that you talked about, well, I guess when people wouldn't necessarily know that these are uniquenesses, but like that in World, for example, you have characters like Disney characters in there. And I also like loved the tidbit about cutting their hair. They get a haircut.
Yes.
Actually,
People
can
love
you
that.
just like share that? Because I was like, ooh, this is cool.
So, but back again, talking to people at Disney Park. So this isn't something that we knew on our own. Like, we had a cast member friend share this with us
Mm.
that on Small World, when they do the refurbishments of that building, the dolls get haircuts, and like immediately, me and Skylar are like, "How does their hair grow? Like, what do you mean they get haircuts?" They're like, "No, it's not exactly what you think." Like, so the Small World dolls, the yarn that they use for their hair, uh, stretches based on the moisture in the ride.
Mm.
So because it stretches, like it makes like the appearance that their hair is growing, and to keep the dolls looking fresh and clean, like they have to give them haircuts. But like it's such a weird piece of like Disney trivia, and I'm sure it's true for Disney World also because I can't imagine that they use different yarn for those dolls. But
Yes,
I don't know.
but
I have no idea.
also your ride goes outside a bit, right?
it
Yeah, we
does,
start
yeah,
outside. We start outside.
So
yeah,
it's less climate controlled.
Yeah,
that's
that is
fair,
very
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
We'd actually, I hate to say it, skipped your Small World. We walked in. I saw it. I said, "Okay, this is the queue." Also, why are we inside? And then, yeah, we didn't finish it.
Right,
I'm
right.
sorry.
Yeah, I remember seeing people really in uproar about the addition of Disney characters in the Small World ride. And then when I started going back to Disney World more regularly, I was like, well, I'm not seeing any characters. And so you all have them. And so I wonder what
Yeah.
you think of those kind of like additions and upgrades you talked about, which I didn't know about in the Tiki Room or like adjacent to the Tiki Room. There was an Aladdin's show
Mhm.
that only went for a year. And I love that you can say like you can still see like magic carpet things and stuff because like if you do a behind the scenes tour at Magic Kingdom at Disney World, they'll point out that they did a thing in under refurbishment around Aladdin or the Tiki Room, but you can't really see any evidence of that. So I love that you like mention that, but I wonder too like what you think of those, like upgrades or additions or things like that.
I mean, I love that Imagineers tried to leave like nods to the past. I think that that's one of the one of my favorite things about Disneyland, and like what we tried to really share in that book is like all of these nods to each of these moments in time. Because like when you talk about like upgrades, like we're mixed. We're always excited for something new, but we're always sad for what we've lost. So like kind of mixed feelings about that. And I think most Disney fans are that way. As we have this development and innovation, but development and innovation like means that something has to change before, right?
Right.
But
I
Skyla,
think,
thoughts? Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I love the Dolls on Small World. So, just to say it, I love the Dolls on Small World. I love that. I love how you can take modern Disney and incorporate it with old school Disney. I think that putting them in their respective lands, I is a way to bring that fantasy and that real life together, especially for kids, so that they understand, like, oh, Jasmine and Aladdin, there's also this cultural moment there.
Hmm.
So maybe they can start to sort of understand some of that. And that's a big deal about Small World, right? Is that we are all under one moon and sun together on this planet. So you do get your little lesson. But yeah, like I said, I love how they leave bits and pieces, and Disneyland can only expand so much. We have tiny footprint, and everything else is, you're right in the middle of town, you're right in the middle of Anaheim, you don't get to go anywhere else. So when things change, leaving things to remember what was there before.
That's a beautiful way to say that. It's so diplomatic too.
But if we
Actually,
start talking about Avatar Land, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I will not be diplomatic about Avatar Land.
I just skipped that. I just walk. Oh, are you pro or against?
Well, I mean, we're about to demolish a big part of our DCA and like the entrance to build room for like our Pandora. So we're
Oh,
about to
Yeah.
lose
I
like
see.
I think a very similar thing to like you guys losing Tom Sawyer's Island for like Piston
Yeah.
Peak. We're losing a big part of our Hollywood for a questionable upgrade for Avatar.
Yeah.
We'll see what that looks like, but I don't think the amount of space they're carving out will be enough to do something meaningful.
Meaningful.
But we'll find
Yeah.
out
I
together.
see. Right. Yeah, it's often like, who asked for this?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Like, Are we? Is it? Oh, are we going that hard for Avatar?
For
Oh,
Avatar, for Avatar, we
for
really like Avatar that
Uh,
much.
but again,
okay.
talking to again because we talked to cast members and Imagineers, like they're trying to appeal to an international audience that loves Avatar and will travel to the park. So
Yeah.
Avatar is less exciting for like U.S. attendees, but more exciting for international attendees, and that was why the decision was made to both in Animal Kingdom for you guys
Yeah.
and for us, like what they're about to do with our Avatar experience in California Adventure.
Okay. Well, good luck with that. I hope you
Yeah,
enjoy
I mean,
it.
Thanks. We'll see. We've got like
You know
5
what?
years. We'll see how it goes.
It is really beautiful and interesting. I just like we could have expanded Africa. Africa's a whole continent, right? Like,
Right?
yeah, so beautiful. Okay. So one of the things, like I said, that I really love in the book is that you highlight different like the snacks and quick service and things like that. And you say like this is what this place is known for, like this and this. And that's really useful for a solo traveler who's trying to navigate and like, ugh, where should I eat? The last thing you want is to be disappointed with food. And
Yeah.
so, not necessarily related to food, I'm interested in reflecting back on what you now know about the different lands at Disneyland. Which land did you think is kind of best for a solo day? Um, some solo time, especially, but not necessarily if you've never been there before.
You want to take
I'm
this one,
gonna,
Skylar? You might go.
yeah, I'm picking New Orleans Square.
And
Which
I didn't know that wasn't an opening day area.
yeah. And I mean, I think there are some good. It might feel counterintuitive. There's only a couple rides there, right? But they're classic. Haunted Mansion and Pirates, just classic. Two of my favorites. Will always ride them. But you also have multiple sit down dining experiences. You get Our Blue Bayou, which is connected to Pirates of the Caribbean, so you get to watch the ride vehicles go by in the water, which is such
So
a
special.
unique and fun experience. Lots of shopping and like not just regular Disney shopping, but unique like bespoke shopping, making your own perfume. You can make your own crown now, which I know you guys have on Main Street now too. And I just think that there's the theming with Tiana's, doing Tiana's Palace, having some authentic Southern food because they do bring in ingredients from the Gulf states to make the food here.
Wow.
So yeah, I like just sitting there. I like sitting there, listening to the music, watching the boats go by. Sorry, you guys can't do that anymore. Riding the Mark Twain, very fun experience. So yeah, I like New Orleans Square for that.
I love that.
And we mentioned this in the book, like that's how Walt envisioned New Orleans Square. He wanted it to be a place where people could just hang out. Like on opening day or when New Orleans Square opened, there were no attractions there. It was just
Yeah.
a place for people to hang out, shop, eat, soak in the vibes, and like we had a fair amount of live entertainment there. And even
Pirate
today,
band
like
still exists. Yeah.
the bootstrappers like come out like a few times a day and like just music happens around you. So I think that's one of the neat things about like New Orleans Square, like where you say like where do you go to just hang out? If you're there just hanging out, like you might have Jack from Pirates of the Caribbean pop out and just like sit down next to you, or like during the holiday season, like Jack Skellington and like Sally were having adventures with the kids in New Orleans Square. So like it's a
Jazz
place.
music at Tiana's, and Tiana
Oh, yeah,
will
yeah.
come by and dance with guests, and it's not even a character dining experience. You're just there.
Yeah, see, like we don't have roaming characters that way, so that's always
Yeah.
like a surprise. Yeah.
And that's why I say like someone going to Disneyland, like even if you're taking a solo trip, my best advice is leave room for magic because like these things are often not on the schedule. They just happen around you if like you're present in the moment. I had like the wildest experience one day where like the Pearly Band comes out, Mary Poppins and Bert start dancing to like a song from Aladdin. So you have a friend like me, and then Aladdin comes out is watching Bert and Mary Poppins dancing, and I turned to him, I'm like, dude, why are you standing here? They're playing your song. He's like, actually, you're wrong. That's my friend Jeannie's song. Friend like me is not my song. But like this, just a fun moment where kids are dancing with the Pearly Band with Bert and Mary Poppins, and Aladdin's on the side watching this all happen. It's just surreal, and this stuff happens at Disneyland daily. If you just leave room for magic and are in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I think because it's a much smaller footprint than Disney World, that people that are used to going to Disney World are reticent about traveling there because, like, well, is it just a one-day park and this and that? But what I loved about the book is that it really highlights so many things that you can just look for and do, and these answers reflect that too. That it's like if you're going solo for vibes, like Disneyland, you got you some vibes.
All over the place. So many vibes. Every vibe.
All the vibes. So, speaking of vibes, it's Christmas season. Can you share with us some things that you're excited about for the Christmas season at Disneyland? And even if people aren't going to be able to make it in the next 3 weeks before Christmas, but maybe like next year, can you talk a little bit about Christmas at Disneyland? That's not in the book, but you can still you can ask for it for Christmas and then plan for next Christmas.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
So I think like Christmas for us, it's shows and ride overlays. So like
Mm.
for Disneyland, our shows is the Christmas Fantasy Parade, which is the longest running Disney parade at any Disney park. So Christmas Fantasy Parade. So Walt Disney like cared so much about Christmas. That was the first parade that he really pushed for. And we have just improved upon that year over year. So Christmas Fantasy Parade is the parade that has the most love from Disney. So it's long, it's got a lot of floats. The floats have developed over time. So if you're going during the Christmas season, like make time for the Christmas Fantasy Parade because like it's unique special. And also here's a funny thing, like your popcorn bucket that you guys had at Disney World, the music box was actually our Christmas Fantasy Parade music, which didn't make any sense except that somebody decided to do that thing. So you guys have a popcorn bucket with a music box.
No, I remember, and I
Yeah.
remember somebody saying that, and I was like, I remember just like overhearing it because the person they were telling it to was like, "Who? What? Why?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is when you get into it. This is when you know the like adults who are at Disney versus the Disney adults."
For sure.
I mean, you guys got the Mr. Toad's popcorn bucket before we did. You don't even have that, right?
Yeah.
But ride overlays at Disneyland. So we have a ride overlay for Small World. We'll do that for the holidays. That's something that's unique to Disneyland. We have a ride overlay for our Haunted Mansion, which is Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yep.
So that's a unique thing. And then Disneyland also does a special fireworks show that they've run for many years, believe in Holiday Magic. That the end of the fireworks show, it snows down Main Street, which you
Love
don't
it.
have snow ever in California. So like it's a moment for us where like people in California actually see snow.
Yeah. Well, some places in California, no.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
Pretty
not,
big. Yeah.
but weather's been weird. We actually have had a day like real snow at Disneyland since me and Skyla have been going. It's a single day.
2 or 3 years ago. It's been post-COVID, but it
Yeah.
definitely like snowed at Disneyland one day, which means it was a tiny, tiny flurry for about 3 minutes. But that's enough for us to be like, wow, it's snowing at the beach, basically.
Whenever I see the snow at Disneyland Paris, I'm always like, "Is this AI? Like, what am I
I'm so
looking at?"
jealous.
Yeah.
I would love to go during Christmas. It looks stunning.
This was really, really fantastic. Can you share a little bit more about like how people can get in touch with you and how people can like learn more about your adventures? And I mean, this is about Disneyland, but there are 2 parks in the Disneyland Resort
parks.
property.
And if you really like I Love Disneyland, please review it so that they ask us to write I Love California Adventure.
Great.
So sometimes castles, you can get in touch with us. The easiest way to actually talk to us is Instagram DMs. So we have got those open. People send us messages asking for advice for their trips and everything all the time. And we're really open to chatting with people there. Otherwise, you can get all of our tips. We post everything on TikTok. For now, and we're on YouTube a smidge, just a little baby smidge.
Yeah,
Okay,
Facebook
okay.
also. We're on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
We have a sometimescastles.com where we have some information there, but it's mostly a hub for merch.
Right.
And then I Love Disneyland. So I Love Disneyland is everywhere books are sold.
Yes.
It is new. So yeah, it's perfect for the holiday season. And again, like if you're someone that loves going to the park, like it's a great way to learn a little bit more like before you go to the park or like while you're there. Or if you're looking for a
fits
gift
in your
for somebody
bag.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was an intentional decision to make it the size that you like. We very intentionally, as we were working with the editor, we wanted something of the size that people could read while they were in line. And it's the same thing. Like
Totally.
it's the same publisher that did Daniel's I Love Magic Kingdom.
Yep.
The intention is that it'll be, hopefully, if people actually read them, like a 6-book series at some point for the 6 parks.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is so great and it's not too heavy. Like, I don't really wear ears in the park, but it's like lighter than a pair of ears.
Actually, your lounge
and
fly
cheaper
or
than
your
a pair of
purse.
ears.
Yeah, much cheaper than a pair of ears. The links to all of your social media are in the podcast description, as well as links, both Canadian and American, to some booksellers if you were interested in buying it. I should say I got my first set of ears at Disneyland, like I said, about 15 years ago. They were Queen of Hearts. They're right up there.
Oh.
They have some like cards on it and then a heart on the other, flower on the other side. And then I went to Disney World a couple years later and I had brought them and I just felt really awkward wearing them because nobody had ears yet. And
So
then
different. So different in Walt Disney World
it
than
was
Disneyland.
so different. It was so interesting how like I felt so embarrassed to even wear them that I just kept them in the bag. And now I don't wear them because I'm heavy and blah blah blah. But it's so funny to go to the parks and be like, guys, 15 years ago, no one was wearing these ears.
Even when we went to Walt Disney World, because we did a park a day, that was the thing, and I wore some sort of matching outfit for the park each day. And when I do that here, it's perfectly normal. Everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
There, everybody's dressed for comfort and sweating. So I got a lot of compliments on things that I just thought were like regular clothes, but no, matching your ears and your outfits to the park you're going to is apparently a California thing.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. Maybe it's just the aesthetics I follow, but there is something about like leopard print and then the Lion King red t-shirts for Disney dads at Animal Kingdom you cannot beat. Like in all the parks, you go to Animal Kingdom and people are the most kind of quote unquote dressed up because they're not dressed up. It's just like t-shirts and stuff. It's really funny. I find it really funny.
I love Animal Kingdom's aesthetic. When we come back, I want to go to Epcot and Animal Kingdom. That's my agenda.
Well, I mean, that makes the most sense, right? Because it's and
most
then you have to wait until like the Americas land opens up in Animal Kingdom. I think that's going to be really fantastic.
The Encanto stuff is going to be so cool.
Yeah. Well, Ry and Skyla, this has been so fantastic. It was wonderful to meet you. It was wonderful to read your book. I am really excited to like think about planning a 2026 trip to Disneyland because of the book. So thank you so much. And thanks for coming on the Disney Solo Magic podcast.
No,
thank you so much for having us.
It's been super fun.
So thank you again. This was really fantastic. And yeah, we'll hope to see you in Disneyland.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. You can reach me on all of the different social media. All of those links are in this description below. You can also listen to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. It'd be really great if you rated, reviewed, and subscribed. It's really a wonderful way to let other people know about the podcast. And as you know, we also have a Patreon where you can get bonus content, you can get bonus episodes, you can get all of the videos of us doing the solo stories and a whole bunch more. So come and join us on Patreon. And thanks again for listening to the podcast. Bye.